Hello, hope you're fine. Once again, I would like to talk about my experience, researches, and this in this presentation, I would like to talk about the recent trends and advances in supply chain management. As you may know, the supply chain management is the main research topic that I have been contributed, and I have published many papers in this research area, and I would like to talk about my experience, what are the current contributions, and something like that. So let's start our. Yeah, I would like to share my screen. So what are the recent advances in supply chain management? And in this presentation, I would like to talk about the conceptual terms, models with potential search areas to help you and to encourage you for write a paper in supply chain management and how we can contribute new things, new theories in supply chain management. In the first step, I think I should highlight the difference between the logistics and supply chain management, abbreviated as SCM. Always students asked me that what is the difference and why we have different terms for the supply chains or SCM, and in generally there are three views to look at logistics and SCM conceptually. The first group is inclusionist. Inclusionist thinks and believes that the logistics is a part of SCM, and the SCM include a very many terms and many members, but logistics may focus on the transportation or inventory systems. Evolutionists believe that the SCM and logistics have the same meaning. If, for example, it means that we can use both terms together. But intersectionalist believes that there are some terms and some parts in logistics which are different from SCM. And we cannot say that the logistics and SCM are the same. For example, if we have focused on the distribution networks, there are some things which cannot be categorized in the supply chain management. For example, maybe the transportation, the warehousing, and something like that, which can be classified as logistics activities more than the SCM. This is not my idea. It is only 3-point parts to show the definition for the logistics in SCM. When we can say what is the international logistics and or SCM, you know, in our world, a company, a logistic company, should work with domestic suppliers and customers and foreign suppliers and customers. It means that when you talk about international logistics, you should consider the international standards and laws and what are the international standards from governments and what are the guidelines when we talk about an international logistics or international supply chain. So we should consider that if we want to contribute internationally for a logistic company or for a supply chain network, we should consider some international concepts, laws, and standards from some concept like sustainable development goals or some standards from ISO concepts, and we will talk about it. That the international logistics are very important if you are interested to contribute to research in supply chain. First, so let me to focus on the definition of supply chain and what is this supply chain management. Generally, supply chain encompasses all activity associated with the flow and transformation of materials, information from the raw material state through to the end user, it means customers. So if we want to compare a global supply chain management with the supply chain management, it means that we should consider different parts from all around the world, as we have different suppliers inside and outside of the countries, and we have different manufacturers, different distributors, and for each market, or for each country, the distribution center may have different laws, and they may have different standards. And the retail and warehousing section for in each country, in each part, is different. And most importantly, the customer's behavior, customers' preferences in each country is different. Therefore, when we talk about a global supply chain, we should consider different criteria to consider that to contribute that many items are maybe important when you want to talk about to develop a supply chain network in a global scale, in as a global supply chain, as a international logistic. So in this regard, I want to talk about different industries. As I have done many papers. For example, in the glass industry, the structure of the network is different from for the tire industry or other type of the products, for example, like water. Therefore, you should consider that, first of all, based on the type of product, we should define a supply chain network based on the characteristics and properties of the products. In the glass industry, if we want to contribute as a closed loop supply chain, that we have considered benefits from the reverse flows. We have suppliers, plants, distributors, customers, and then the returned products from customers or the used products customers are collected and in the recovery centers, and they may be divided into the recycling centers, manufacturing centers, and disposal centers to show that we have different properties for the glass industry, since the glass industry needs to have a recycling centers, needs to have a manufacturing centers, and needs to have a disposal centers. But not all products are needed. All these facilities in the reverse logistics. For example, on the tire industry, the network may be a little simple is more simple than the network for the glass industry. We have suppliers, manufacturers, and then retailers and markets. And then the collectors, the collection centers are considered to recycle the products, and the recycled products are directly given to the manufacturers. So if in this paper, since we have considered dual channel, we have the on-out channel and offline channel from manufacturers, retailers, and markets in an integrated way to focus on the location, allocation, and pricing decisions in the tire industry. And for the water supply chain network, it is more complex, as we have different type of waters, from groundwater resources and surface water from dams. They are transferred to the purifying centers to filter the water and to make the drinking water, and from the return water from urban cities, we should collect the wastewater. In the wastewater, we can use energy as for the sludge water as a gas generator. We can recycle the wastewater, some of wastewater, and the recycled wastewater may be used for agricultural and industrial sections, and they may be back to the dams and also the groundwater resources. And this loop and this cycle is continued for the water supply network. So you can see that based on the type of products, the structure of the network is different. And the structure of network is one important criterion when you want to contribute to the global supply chain. Generally, we have two main flows. The material flows, as I discussed in the for the gas, tire, and water industries, and the information flows. The information flows are the vice versa for the material flows. And for example, if we do a shipment, replenishment, and purchase in a forward supply chain, we have for the information flow, we got the information from end customers, and we got the information from the point of sale and wholesaler, and then finally to the manufacturer. Therefore, the information flows and material flows are highly different, and they are important to estimate the demand information in each level. One is important section for supply chain is to highlight their levels. We have three main levels at strategic, tactical, and operational. In strategic decisions, we should more focus on the supply chain design, resource acquisition, and long-term planning. For example, when our decisions are more than 1 year. For example, if we want to establish, or we want to define or design a new facility in our network to improve the supply chain performance. Therefore, this type of decision is strategic. Tactical decision is more focused on production and distribution planning. Then we should consider the resource allocation, and these type of decisions are made monthly. For example, if we have a multi-period system, that's type for the allocation decisions are repeated in each period. And finally, the operational decisions, which are mainly focused on the daily or weekly decisions for the shipment, for the scheduling, and for operations. And to have define our planning, we should have consider these all decisions in an integrated way. It means that we should define a model to not only support the strategic decisions like location decisions, not only support the tactical decision for manufacturing and allocation decisions, but also the shipment planning for pickup and delivery of products. It means that defining such a model is very complex, and this is a challenge. And when you talk about the supply chain levels, in this regard, there are different objectives in the supply chain management. Mainly papers, you may see that they are focusing on the minimizing the total cost or maximizing the profit, customer satisfaction, the maximizing the quality of services and the quality of products, and maximizing the productivity or something like that, or maybe the hired workers for the job opportunities are also a type of objectives which are common in the literature. So you may choose some of these objectives in your supply chain model based on what you want to do. Basically mean that you are contributing to the global supply chain, or as green or sustainable or flexible or resilient. And designing such a network is complex, is difficult. Why? Because different organizations, the supply chain management may have different conflicting objectives. And manufacturers, we want to contribute to their long-run production with high quality, with high productivity. From the point of distributors, adjusting time system, it means with very low inventory or reduced transportation costs, or to have a very quick replenishment are preferred. In the customer's point of view, they want to have the orders in a specific time window, to meet the lead time, to have a very large variety of products and very low prices. Therefore, as you can see, the criteria in each level is different. And in this regard, the supply chains are dynamic, and they involve many changes in a time over time. For example, from the objectives, from the complexity, from the networks, and the all these criteria make the supply chain network as a complex optimization problem. So what about the global supply chain? In a global supply chain, we should not only consider a centralized system, but a decentralized supply chain. What is the meaning of decentralized? In a decision making in a supply chain network can be performed in a centralized or decentralized. In a centralized supply chain network, there exists a central authority responsible for decision making, whereas in a centralized structure, the individual entities can make their own decision. For example, if we have a competition between retailers and manufacturers, therefore we need to model such a competition using a decentralized supply chain model. In practice, no supply chain can be completely centralized or decentralized as when we talk about global supply chain, because in a global scale, we may have different competitions in each level, but some times we need coordination between levels. Therefore, each self-centralized or decentralized supply chain has some advantages and disadvantages. Most commonly, the strategic decisions are usually made centrally. For example, the location decisions, allocation decisions, maybe, but the operation decisions may be decentralized. It means we have different shippers, and there is a competition between these shippers to pick up the demand request and to deliver them to the customers. Therefore, mainly when we have operational decisions, they may be taken in decentralized way. I want to have some more examples for decentralized supply chains. Usually, the centralized supply chains can be formulated by game theory or bi-level programming. I have used bi-level programming many papers. In the bi-level programming, we have a leader and a follower. Their decisions are made in a sequence. It means that for a location allocation system, the location decisions are made by the leader, by the allocation decisions are made by the follower. Therefore, they have may have some conflicting objectives. For example, maybe the leader prefers to minimize the costs, but if we talk about efficient supply chain, but in the follower prefers a responsiveness supply chain to maximize the responsibility to consider or to maximize the customer satisfaction. Therefore, there are many ideas when you talk about a bi-level decision making. I recommend you to read these papers if you want to have some ideas. You can have a look at them, and there are many other papers when we talking about the bi-level programmings, mainly, for example, in the game theories for the production systems and attacker or defender models. And therefore, there are many ideas. Another main contribution in the global supply chain is the risk management. And to handle the uncertainty, how we can tackle the uncertainty. What is the main source of risk? What are risk averse, risk taking, and risk neutral? You can search them and see the main definitions. But in a supply chain network, we have all these roles in the supply chain. We have many different classifications and analysis. We should calculate the risk, and our decisions for location and allocation decision should be made to have an action to the risk management. We have to have a risk monitoring for the supply chain management. And addressing the risk, it is not possible when we have to address or we have to tackle the source of uncertainty. There are many uncertainty in the supply chains. The main source of uncertainty can be defined in supply, in process, or demand. In many papers, the process, for example, on the machines, in the production systems, in the manufacturer, we may have a machines breakdown. We may need maintenance. We have demand uncertainty that the customer's behavior is very complex, and based on each season, each factor in the society, there is a clear demand uncertainty, and the supply is also uncertain. So we have some wars or some inflections that some suppliers maybe not possible, maybe not may have not provided their orders in a specific time. Therefore, there is an uncertainty in the supply. There are many factors that are contributed to the uncertainty. We may have an accurate demand forecasting, long variables, late times, late deliveries, incomplete shipments, product changes, batch ordering, price fluctuations, and discounts, and inflate orders. Therefore, one goal in a global supply chain is to respond to the uncertainty in customer demand without creating costly excess inventory. And this addressing the uncertainty has some negative impacts. Also, we should be very careful about the inventory to insurance against that supply chain uncertainty is done in a perfect way. The other source of uncertainty can be discussed. For example, the trend toward outsourcing due to the fact that additional dependencies are created and the complexity in the network rises. We may have an outsourcing for demand or for an outsourcing to supply. The trend towards lean supply chains results in low inventories shift by close collaboration with customers and suppliers on the hand, but leads to high vulnerabilities on the other hand. All in all, globalization increases supply chain risks because aspects such as transportation risk, cultural risk, or exchange rate risk are very important. And when you talk about a supply chain network in a global scale, you should take care of the uncertainty. And to tackle the uncertainty, there are many programming approaches like fuzzy programming, stochastic programming, and robust programming. And there are many hybrid methods using, for example, a fuzzy with robust as a possibilistic robust programming, or possibilistic stochastic programming, and many or type of mathematical models to address the uncertainty in a comprehensive way. Therefore, in a global scale, in supply chains, we should take care of demand risk to increase the revenue. We should take care of intellectual property risk, while outsourcing or offshoring can result in lower manufacturing costs. And we should take care of behavioral risks for the customers as the number of partners increases in a global supply chains. The demand is growing very dramatically. For example, the number of population in each year is growing, and the countries should take that when the number of populations is grows. Therefore, the behavior of customers may be changed, and we have some risks for customers' behavior. As I mentioned earlier, in a global scale, we should take care of international rules, standards, and one international criterion is to have consider the green and environmental issues. When we talk about green supply chain, we should take care of four main criteria to have a green supply chain. The transportation mode optimization. When you talk about mode, for example, you can use trains, trucks, planes, and many other type of modes to handle, and they have different costs and also different type of environmental pollution. For example, from the point of a green supply chain, the shipments by ships in offshore logistics is better than using trucks or planes. Also, another important factor is the transport carrier selection. There are suppliers and our carriers have take care of sustainability and green issues. And also network distribution optimization, that the distribution networks should consider the carbon emissions and this green emissions from transportation, and equipment utilization improvement, that if we improve the number of products to improve the utilization for the customers. Therefore, we should also take care that more products create more waste, and also more waste have more effects to the environmental, and therefore in green supply chain we should redesign all decisions from location decisions, allocation decision, routing decisions, we have a look at the amount of carbon emissions and amount of carbon tax, carbon footprints, and many other methods to calculate the environmental pollution in the supply chain network. For example, global warming is a result of increasing carbon emissions. Therefore, it is very important. I read in the news that many animals and many birds have traveled and have transferred to the Russian jungles instead of Canadian jungles or Alaska, because the global warming is a highly effect on the nature, and the main source of global warming is the carbon emissions that are introduced, that are generated by our vehicles, our shipments, and our transportation systems in the supply chain network. And due to globalization and increased outsourced trends, transportation is the only sector that has increased the carbon emissions in the last 2 decades, as you can see in this chart. One additional step, in addition to the environmental issues, is the social factor, is to consider the social factors. Based on a triple bottom line concept, simultaneous consideration of economic, environmental, and social criteria is the base of a triple bottom line concept. Based on the Sustainable Development Goals, we should not only consider the environmental sustainability based on the green supply chain, we should also take care of social sustainability, that in the social factors we can optimize or we can consider social performance by some very common criteria like job opportunities, the number of employment. The employment is very important, and in the manufacture center we should have managers, which are fixed positions, and also some workers that are worked with the machines, and these workers are the variable based on the process, based on the when the machines is turning on. We have the lost work days, that some workers are not available for a specific reason, and this is a very challenge, especially in the case of COVID-19 pandemic. This social metric is very, very, very significant, that we have many workers that have some lost days because they should work from homes, and many workers, to consider the social distancing for the COVID-19, they reduce the number of workers, and this is a challenge when we want to consider an international company to meet the sustainable development goals and to have a sustainable supply chain system. And there are so many other criteria for the social sustainability, as you may read in the many papers. We have three areas of globalization in supply chain management. The first area was initially given by countries before the industrial revolution in European countries. And the second era of globalization is happened by industrial revolution. And in the third era of globalization, said to have begun around the year of current century. The significant characteristic is that it is being powered by individuals and smaller organizations. And based on our suggestions and our factors about risks, about uncertainty, about green emissions, about social factors, about all of them, we should take care that operations have been changed to create a global supply chain management. And there are many facts that considering the globalizations for operations and supply chains are very important. You can see them that, for example, in the IT services, 60% of all IT work is done by an outsourced party. It means that outsourcing in information technology services are very important that we have discussed in this presentation. And all in all, based on all these criteria that I have mentioned for the green, social risk, and uncertainty factors that I mentioned earlier, we should make some important decisions that where to locate the factories, facilities, how to allocate production to the various facilities, and how to develop suppliers for the plants, our manufacturers, how to manage the distribution of products, and how to organize all these parties and levels for in a global supply chain, in a global scale. The givens that frame these decisions are the company's particular set of markets, the demand projections for different markets, and the information about future macroeconomic conditions, transportation costs, which have a very important, as the transportation is the key factor for the green supply chain, and the production economies. It goes without saying that the production for to produce and sell are very important as the givens for making these above decisions. And generally, in a global supply chain, we made our decisions in a competition that we should take care that some parts of our supply chain is decentralized. And there are three factors in a global supply chain with a market focus, product focus, and process focus for the design of a supply chain based on the markets, based on the products and process. For products, as I mentioned earlier, for each type of products, the structure of the network is changed, and you should take care that for the type of products we have a different designs for the supply chain. And finally, based on all these contributions for achieving the supply chain management in a global scale, I suggest following research trends. Application of green or sustainable supply chain for real-life industries, such as tire industries, glass industries, water industries. Development of operational research techniques and machine learning algorithms. You know that the research on machine learning models and algorithms and operational research techniques such as Bender's decomposition, Lagrangian relaxations. These methods, all these methods are very active and based on theories and optimization. There is no method which is be efficient for all models, and based on for each model you should find an algorithm which is suitable, which is appropriate to handle the constraints and objectives, and many other research trends which are useful for you. And based on the such research trends, I suggest and encourage you to contribute a research paper in supply chain management and to consider new contributions, mainly based on green and sustainable criteria and industrial informatics, blockchain technologies, and also many other factors in a global scale for supply chain and logistics. And there are some other references which I have used in this presentation. And all in all, I would like to thank you and for this I hope all these topics are interesting for you, and hope to see you again in another presentation for supply chains, models, and optimization theory. Bye-bye. Have a good day.